Hey, Dr. Tom Preston here, head coach and founder of Full Circle Coaching and Consulting. And are you ready for an associate, doc? How do you know that? Well, I can tell you, after 25 years of coach consulting and helping literally hundreds of docs put the greatest associates in the practice, I've got a list of 10 things, the indicators that you need to know, that you need to be able to rate yourself on subjectively in order to know whether you're ready for an associate. Because I would offer, what I want you to do is I lay out these 10 different indicators to know when you're ready for an associate. I want you to score yourself. Just grab a piece of paper and a pen and just score, put from 1 to 10 down. And I want you to write a number from 1 to 10 in each one of the 1 to 10 numbers that you've written, because there's 10 different indicators. 10 is, I totally own this, I've got it nailed. 1 is, I suck at this. My office isn't ready for this based upon whatever that criteria is, okay? So rate yourself, and then we're gonna have a scoring system at the end so you can understand. All right, so the first thing you need, the first indicator you need in order to know that you're ready for an associate is you need to have stable volume, okay? So what I mean by that is, every office will have, little ups and downs and stuff, okay? But you want to make sure that your volume is actually stable, that it's not big fluxes, ups and downs like this kind of thing, but maybe just little ripples on a pond versus, gigantic waves on the North Atlantic. If you've still got all kinds of flux in your volume, which is probably predicated by one of two things, because volume is made up of two indicators, only two. Numbers of new patients you have. If you've got fluxes, number of new patients, you got some marketing issues, and it's going to make having an associate an absolute GD nightmare, okay? The other one is your education system that helps people see the value of staying with the program of care you've offered, and if you're practicing in a neurological salutogenic model, the value of ongoing wellness care, so that there's stability of people coming in at the front of the office and there aren't so many people leaving at the back end. If you've got that, you're moving through in the right direction. Score yourself 1 to 10. Number 2 is you want to have an increased desire to serve, okay? If you do not have an increased desire to serve because you feel like you're in a good spot, you're comfortable, the Mercedes payments are being made, you've got the toys, you've got the stuff on the economic side, the kids are already, ready for university or whatever. If you've got those pieces in place, you don't have a strong desire to move on the economic front, then you need to ask yourself whether you have a strong desire to serve, like from a personal fulfillment standpoint, or from a mission standpoint, in terms of making a difference with your life. If that is not at a high rate right now, like above 7 or 8, then it's probably not the right time for an associate. But again, relative to my exercise, just rate yourself from 1 to 10. Number 3, which ties actually to the first one, is you want to have a waiting list of new patients, okay? If you're scrambling to get new patients on a regular basis because you've got a really mature practice, you forgot how to market, you don't know how to market, you never learned how to market, and there's a lot of flux. You got, some months you got 10 new ones coming in, other months you got 30 or 40 coming in. If it's a big flux and you don't have like that waiting list, then I can tell you it's going to become a problem when you bring on an associate, because they're going to want to be fed. If you're not feeding them through a waiting list of new clients, I'm telling you it's going to be a problem. So again, if you've got a waiting list, the peak of my practice, I had a 4-week waiting list. People would wait 4 weeks. They wouldn't wait longer than that, we found, but we'd have a 4-week waiting list. That way we knew we were ready for an associate. All right? The fourth one is that you need to have a stable team, okay? If you do not have stability in your team, if you do not have rock star CAs that are well trained and you have ongoing education, ongoing quarterly reviews with them, ongoing performance reviews, you have an ongoing training system, you have stability in the team, it's going to be absolute effing hell on wheels when you bring an associate in, because they're going to be leaning on you. You're going to only got so many hours in the day. You've got patients to serve. You've got a family to look after. You've got hobbies. You've got interests. You've got your athletics. Where are you going to find the time if they're just leaning on you all the time? You need to have a team that's very stable in order to be able to move forward with a good associate. So again, rate your team from 1 to 10 on stability. 10, rock star stability. 1, pretty flexible, pretty not stable, okay? All right. This ties actually to the stability there is you need to make sure that you have reproducible, man, that's a long word when you're writing it on a board, reproducible systems, Okay, in other words, you've got structure to your systems. When you've got structure to your systems, they're reproducible. In other words, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Fluffnick, everybody that's coming into your office is having a very, very similar experience, right from first call-in all the way through to advanced wellness care. If you do not have reproducible systems, it's going to be very difficult / impossible for an associate to plug into that and actually have those work well. Because once you get more than one doc in the office, now you've got concerns around brand. You need to protect the brand at all costs. If you don't have strong reproducible systems, they're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. People going through the referral process or the buying process, they got to know you, they got to like you, they got to trust you. If there's not reproducibility of the systems and reproducibility of the brand, you have a lack of trust and the whole thing starts to implode, okay? All right, number 6, and this goes into more of the personal side. You've got to have a strong desire to mentor. Not every player, not every practitioner is a good coach or a good mentor, okay? And so you've got to really have a strong desire, because if you've never done coaching or mentoring to somebody, I tell you, it's not as transparently easy as maybe me and my team make it out to be. And that's a joke. If you didn't get that, that's on you, okay? But again, you need to have a strong desire to do that, because there's a steep learning curve to being able to mentor. You've got to be able to set out outcomes assessments for the associate. You've got to be able to set out a training schedule for the associate that's written in stone tablets, never changes. Because the 2 biggest reasons why associates leave an office, and frustration and anger and resentment, is over finances and over lack of proper mentoring and guidance. So if you don't have a strong desire to mentor, I would encourage you not to go down that rabbit hole. Now, tied to this, you guys, is number 7, which is you've got to have time management mastery, okay? If you are a fly by the seat of your pants person that is just, scrambling from one time to the next, you miss meetings, you're late for meetings, it's your behavior, that's who you are, it doesn't make you a good or bad person. It just creates an outcome or a consequence that an associate is never going to be properly trained in your office. It's going to become a hassle. It's going to become an absolute drag to you. It's going to create resentment and guilt both ways, and the whole thing is going to implode. So you definitely want to have time management mastery, which I would preclude that you would have an intentional template for how you use your time on a weekly basis. You use Pareto's principle to create major outcome activities, MOAs, in order to know what the highest and best use of your time is. There's some other trainings in our program that could help you with that if you are not familiar with those. All right, tied to this, we're still on the mastery front here. You want to make sure that you have communication mastery, that you are an excellent communicator, that you understand things like the different styles with which people communicate, personality profiles, love languages, Kolbe indexes. You want to have mastery of this, you guys, because if not, you're not going to be able to communicate to the associate in a way that they can hear you, because literally there are so many different ways that people communicate and how they interpret things. It's like different languages. Like you're speaking French, they're speaking Greek, and there's a Mandarin over here. I mean, if you do not have mastery of that, you're setting yourself up for a problem. So again, rate yourself from 1 to 10 on how well you've mastered communications. All right, now, the next one is you go on to have a very high deserve level, okay? And particularly deserve level when it comes to money, all right? Because a lot of docs that I've consulted with after the fact, after they've lost 2 or 3 or 4 associates, it's because there's somebody who's actually making money for you. Most of the people in the chiropractic profession are self-started, self-actualized, self-realized people. You're probably one of them. And so as a result of that, you've never asked anybody to really help you. Yes, you probably have a staff, and hopefully you have a very stable team. But outside of having somebody come in and diagnose, adjust, and do the other things, you're usually the only one that's ever done that. And so when someone else comes in and starts doing that, and then you actually get paid for what they're doing, I'm telling you, it can create some really weird mishigas in your brain. And if you don't have a high deserve level where you realize that you should be getting paid not just for what you do, but for what you know, let me say that again, get paid for what you know, not just for what you do, I tell you, you're going to end up with problems. So again, rate yourself 1 to 10 on your deserve level. And the final piece, which will make this, is you must know your numbers, okay? And what I mean by that is that you must know not only the numbers of new clients you get in a month and the number of patient visits and stuff. You got to know what your profit margins are. You got to know what your cost to deliver the service is. You've got to know exactly where your overhead is, where you might be able to cut it, where it's going to be increased, because every time an associate comes on, it's going to increase your overhead somewhere between $500 and $2,500, usually depending upon whether you need to bring on staff or not. There are so many factors that come into bringing on an associate that will increase those costs. And I can tell you that most docs, when they bring on an associate, lose money. Let me say it again. They lose money economically for the first month. My last associate, Steve, who took over my practice, great doc, great friend of mine, and a superstar chiropractor who hit the ground running hard on his practice, he still cost me money for 7 months based upon percentage splits and what he cost me every month to be there, because I had to bring on another team member. I wanted him working when I wasn't there to open the office for longer periods of time. If you don't know your numbers cold and you don't have a good projection budget sheet to know exactly what it's going to cost you, where your break-even point is, where your percentage splits are, where you should be relative to overhead, what percentage splits you should be offering, I tell you, you're licensed for problems and for headaches down the road. So again, these are the 10 things that I have found are the main indicators for whether you should be even entertaining bringing on an associate. Let's go through them. Stable volume of patient visits, an increased desire to serve, waiting list of new patients, stable team, reproducible systems, strong desire to mentor, time management and communication mastery, high deserve level for money, and you got to know your numbers cold. What I would encourage you to do is to add these up and just see where you stand. Just add up the 10 different numbers you've written from 1 to 10. Obviously, it could be as low as 10, could be as high as 100. I can tell you if you're scoring anywhere under 60, it's not the right time for you. And if I was your coach, I would definitely advise you not to entertain bringing on an associate until you've worked through some of these indicators. If you're somewhere between 60 and 80, I would say that it's time to think about it, but you may want to be working with some coach consultant in order to bring that up to get it really clear. If you're above 80, I would say that it's probably time for you to entertain bringing on an associate. And if you'd like some help finding one, certainly our Associate Doc Recruiting Program is something that's legendary in the profession. We've helped literally hundreds of docs just like you bring on an associate, go through the 13 steps in the proper sequence to recruit the best associate. By the way, little tip before I go, you never hire, you always recruit. Okay? Because hiring is, you've got a little window of time, the best person that comes across your screen is the one that you bring on. No, you want to recruit. You want to do all of the background data of the 13 steps that I advocate for. 8 of them are before you ever even go out to the world to tell them you're ready. It's all the due diligence pre-work that'll bring on the right person for you. So again, Dr. Tom helping you become more so you can do more and have more. In this case, possibly bringing on an associate to help you make a bigger difference with your life through your business.